Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Talk of Art. I'm your host, Catherine Nightingale. My today's guest has always been interested in history, especially the lives of outstanding women and royals. Daisy Goodwin, the author of such novels as Victoria, the literary source of all the favorite TV show Victoria, The Fortune Hunter, My Last Duchess, and the upcoming novel Diva, shares her preferences in opera, talks about her origins, and uncovers the secrets of her writing routine. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Daisy Goodwin. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Hi.
That's great. Okay. It's so nice to see you today. How are you doing?
Not bad, thank you. Not bad.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Right.
Okay. So, did you enjoy the holiday season?
Yeah, very much, thank you.
Because I know that London has so many beautiful Christmas decorations. You also have like some traditions when a famous person, for example, is invited and they light up all the decorations, and
That's right.
London is
Yeah.
really great. Yeah. By the
Yeah.
way, where are you from? Where are you based?
In London.
In London. Okay. So, what do you like most about London? Do you consider it to be like the most comfortable city in England, or is there any place that owns special place in your heart?
Um, it's the place where most of my friends and family are. It's the most familiar place to me.
Okay.
It's got a great art scene. I love the countryside too. I love
Do you
dogs.
often go to the countryside?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, and I have dogs, so I like to take them.
Okay, how many of them?
I have two dogs. Yeah, so
Oh,
I like to be in.
probably like cute, fluffy things.
Yeah. I like to take them for walks.
Okay. Yeah, speaking of London and of like motherland in general, so what thoughts usually spring to mind when you hear the phrase motherland sky or like childhood sky?
Oh, Motherland Sky.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a very well. I think probably grey and
great. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Because of English weather
yeah,
mostly. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, and as I know, you come from a family of rich origins, right? Argentinian and British, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I mean, not. Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do.
Okay. So, how did these two cultures intertwine, and how did they influence you as a writer, first of all?
Um, well, I would say that the Argentinian influence uh was always kind of in the background, but I mean, they'd emigrated from Ireland to
Hmm.
Argentina. I don't think they ever really considered themselves culturally Argentinian. My grandmother came back to England,
Okay.
Argentina, but certainly growing up, it seemed like this exotic place that I had a connection to.
Yeah,
Um,
so did you manage to travel around Argentina as a child?
I had not as a child, but I've been there as an adult. But
Okay.
when I was a teenager first, and then went back as an adult.
Okay. So, and how is Argentina different from Britain and the people
Oh,
there? Because these are two completely different cultures.
they are completely different. I mean, Argentina is so big and so underpopulated um, and so sort of lacking in a cultural identity, I think. I mean, they don't quite know what sort of country they are. Um, it's hard for me to say the same about England because, I'm English, so it's hard for me to know.
Okay. But one feature that they probably share, these two countries, is a huge historical heritage, rich historical heritage, right?
Yeah, I think they do. I mean, I think Argentina is a country. I think we all have myths about our past, and I think Argentina has, you know, um, was an incredibly rich and successful country, and then in the second half of the 20th century, it completely lost its way economically.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but it was one of the richest countries in the world at the beginning of the 19th century. And it's a really interesting question about why, a country with unbelievable natural resources and so forth would lose its way so comprehensively.
Yeah, it usually depends on many factors, not just economy. Like
No,
it's
no,
like
no, 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 no,
so
no,
many things that influence each country, I suppose. Even
yeah,
Britain.
no, but it's of course, but this was like a country that I don't know why it. I mean, I don't know enough about it, but I think it's fascinating that there are more psychoanalysts in Buenos Aires than anywhere else in the world, apparently.
Yeah, so you've mentioned that like you're English basically, right? So what does being English mean to you?
Uh, well, I don't know. I used to think it was a certain kind of tolerance and
Okay,
um, a sort of lack of venom, a lack of, I mean, that it was quite a civilized place. Um,
exactly.
I don't know. I think Brexit has made that harder to believe. There's a lot of sort of pent up anger in Britain, which is making itself clear. I think by and large it's quite a civilized place, but it's hard to know really. I mean, I think it's you know, I think it's like a lot of countries, there's a danger of it going down a sort of populist route. So I hope we don't.
Yeah. So, but English are known for their like exquisite sense of humor, right?
Yes,
We observe it not only in books, but in a lot of
yes.
films, TV shows. Even in Victoria, when I was watching this TV show, I found Lord Melbourne to be a person with quite an ex not just exquisite
Yeah,
manners, but exquisite sense of humor.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Yes.
I think humor is something that the English have taken very seriously. You're absolutely right. It doesn't always translate, but yes, you're right. I think they have got a sense of humor. The British have got a sense of humor.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I
I
think it becomes a danger when we can't laugh at ourselves. Yeah,
I suppose every country somehow has a lot of jokes that characterize them as people
yeah,
and like show their attitude to other nations, you know.
yeah,
And I think most of the people they don't get offended by jokes because that's why exquisite humor exists. So
yeah.
for people to be sure they are not offended, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
what part does humor play in your life in general? So are you a humorous person?
I hope so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, other people might not, but yeah, I'm always yeah. I try and make a joke of
Okay, do you have a favorite? Maybe it's an old British TV show or film that you consider to be like the top of humor, you know, where
uh,
people used
there's a,
such
there's
great
a film
jokes.
there's a film called Kind Hearts and Coronets that was made in the 50s,
Yeah.
which is brilliant. It's a very British film.
Okay, so what exactly do you like about this film?
It's very deadpan. It's very black humor.
Yeah, it's also one of the British features, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's exquisitely done. It's brilliant. It's very subversive, but looks very sort of decorous. You know.
Yeah, I think when it comes to my sense of humor, I really enjoyed Sherlock, although there's also a lot of not just simple humor, but black humor. And I
Yeah,
suppose like Benedict Cumberbatch, he's just exquisite at making jokes.
yeah,
And he
yeah,
can do it like with a serious face, a completely serious face. I suppose it's also one of the features of British people, like
yeah,
making jokes with
yeah.
poker face.
Poker face, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, speaking of writing, so you tend to praise a lot of outstanding women who
yeah,
somehow they turned the history upside down, like Victoria, Princess Sissi, right, and Maria Callas, right?
yep.
So what makes them so interesting to you, and why do you turn to these outstanding women when writing a novel, or maybe when an idea comes to your mind, you know?
I'm only really interested in writing about women with, you know, a character. I'm not. I mean, I just think, uh, you know, I don't want to write about women who are victims. I want to write about women who make something of their lives or who are struggling with destiny in one form
Yeah,
or another. I mean, I suppose Cece was a bit of a victim, and in fact,
exactly.
she didn't end up being the heroine of that book. But I think she's a fascinating character. But Callus and Victoria were definitely people who rose to the occasion.
Yeah. So people were trying to put as many obstacles as possible on their way, and they somehow overcame them,
Yes,
right?
so
So
that's right. Yeah, I mean, Callus was a genius.
exactly, the voice
Yeah,
just
Callus was a genius,
fabulous.
and I think that I think Callus was a genius, and I think that Victoria was an ordinary woman who didn't doubt her own authority.
Yeah.
Both of them had a sort of confidence that I think is amazing.
Yeah, and taking into account her age, right?
Yeah,
Becoming queen at the age of 18 when
yeah,
she's
exactly.
still like trying to figure out what to do in life. So, and
Yeah, yeah,
everything is suppressing her. The
yeah,
society is trying to suppress her, right?
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. By the way, so as I know, you wrote the novel prior to the TV show, right?
It was kind of not really. I'd started the novel, and then the TV show came along, and then I finished the novel.
Okay. So why did you decide to finish the novel right before Victoria's wedding? So when Lord Melbourne he withdraw from the palace and from his position as a
It seemed to me the right place to stop.
okay. So because when I was also reading the book and watching the TV show, it seemed to me that you were somehow trying to build the story around this tender relationship and feelings of
Yeah.
Lord Melbourne and Victoria to each other, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, it was a very important moment. And then she gets married and Melbourne is history.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of
And
part.
I like the chemistry between them. So, I suppose the TV show was built on Jenna Coleman's and Rufus Sewell's
Yeah,
connection,
yeah, yeah.
so chemistry.
Definitely. Yeah,
Did you
definitely.
manage to get on set when they were
Yeah,
filming?
yeah, yeah. So when they were filming, yeah, it's great.
Okay, so what part brought most pleasure to you when
Well, I love
watching them
them.
performing?
Yeah, I love that watching them performing. I think the bit where she goes to see him at his house and says
Yeah,
him to marry her and he can't. I thought that's great. Yeah,
yeah, it's heartbreaking actually.
yeah.
So, and speaking of Maria Callas, right? So, were you an opera amateur before writing this novel, or were you like a complete stranger to this
No,
culture?
I've always been interested in opera. Um, and I mean, I'm not a professional, but I'm interested in it. I I learned I took some singing lessons while I was
Hey,
yeah, which was helpful.
was it like a classical singing or
Yeah,
jazz
yeah, yeah.
singing?
No, opera singing. Yeah,
Okay, how did it go?
not bad, not bad.
Okay.
Yeah, but it helped me write about her. Yeah,
Exactly. So you were already aware of the like functions of the
yeah,
body that are responsible for
yeah,
this
yeah,
process. Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Okay. So as I know, Maria Callas, she had a very difficult childhood. She
Yeah.
was struggling, right? So, and as I know, you've separated your story into like three stages. First, her
Mhm.
childhood, then her like raise to fame, and then her relationship with this Greek billionaire, right? Onassis.
Yeah, yeah. I have no. I've actually. Yeah, I mean, it actually starts at the on the day that that Onassis marries Jackie Kennedy,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Yeah.
it's a flashback, but you get to see the sort of the course of Maria's life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as I know, she also, I don't know if it was temporary or permanent that she lost her voice for some time after the breakup, right?
I think that's not quite true. She was beginning to lose her voice before she met Onassis, and
Okay.
one of the reasons that there was room in her life for Onassis was the fact that she couldn't sing in the same way after. I mean, that she was beginning to realize that she could not perform as much as she had done. So I think if she'd still been at the full, at her peak, I don't think the Onassis affair would have happened.
Yeah, definitely. So, what inspired you to write a novel about Maria Callas? Because I was also trying to figure out if there are any other stories concerning this great woman, but it was actually quite difficult to find one. So, what
Any other?
made you create a story?
What you mean, a novel or a
A
biography?
novel, a novel.
There are lots of biographies of her. I think there are a couple of other novels, but I decided to write a novel because I felt that it was the only way I could get at the truth of a woman who was a great performer. And first and foremost, I wanted the reader to be able to feel what it was like to be her standing on a stage,
Mm.
And I have, I just felt a novel was the best way to tell her story. All the biographies I've read have felt a bit lacking. They don't have the same. Um, I mean, I just felt I wanted to tell the story of a woman from the inside, and I think you can only really do that in a novel.
Yeah, and probably to display her true character, because I also know that you've published so many videos in your Instagram stories about her attitude towards life. Like she said,
Yeah,
we are all icons for
yeah,
some period of time, and then we fall really hard when
yeah,
people
yeah,
stop
yeah,
perceiving us as stars, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Do you agree with her expression that like the higher you get, the worse the fall, right?
Yes, I suppose I do. I think she I think she always wanted to be the best. I mean, she was a perfectionist and she had
Definitely.
the idea that she wasn't going to be the best, which is why she stopped singing. Yeah, no, she was an amazing woman, incredibly brave and fierce and determined.
Strong character, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and has your perception of the opera changed somehow upon finishing your novel?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yes, it has, because I realize now just how difficult it is. I mean, to be able to sing at that with that power, and also act is just unbelievable. I don't know how people do it. I mean, it's like, running a marathon wearing a stage.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's extraordinary.
It's
Absolutely
like
extraordinary.
same like with the belly dancers, people say, oh, they are as light as feathers, but the moment they get out of stage, they are just breathing hard and trying to catch up breathing and catch their strength. So
I
I
know,
suppose with the opera singers, it's the same.
but also with the opera singers, your voice is so much part of your being. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's you have to be in total control to be able to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. What's your favorite opera, by the way?
Oh, yeah, Don
Yeah.
Giovanni. I like Don Giovanni, and I like. I mean, obviously, I like Lucia di Lammermoor and all those. I like the Callas canon, but Don
Okay.
Giovanni is the one I would I would go to for the music, I think.
Okay. I remember I was really struck by Macbeth. Giuseppe Verdi's opera
Oh yeah,
Macbeth,
that's
and
yeah,
it's
that's
so somber and
yeah.
I would say intimidating, but at the same time beautiful. So
Yeah. Rigoletto is another one I really love too. Yeah.
yeah, and La Traviata also. I think I watched it like 3 times.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's Traviata is an incredible opera.
Yeah, it's perfect. So, what do you think unites all of these women that you have portrayed in your novels?
I guess that they are all, strong women. They're all women who are, you know, who are dealing with kind of the problems that, both exceptional problems like being queen or having an amazing voice, and
Yeah.
also the problems that all women face, men, children, other women, career, success, all that stuff. And also to some extent, I'm interested in choosing women who I think have been misrepresented by men.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe even, as I said, suppressed, right? Men were trying to influence them
Yeah.
somehow, and they figured out their own way
Yeah,
eventually.
but also whose memory has been, shaped by men and needs to be reshaped by women.
Exactly. Like, who could have thought that Queen Victoria is going to be one of the best queens in the British history, and like
Yeah.
that people would call the epoch of her reign as like the golden
Yeah, yeah,
age, right? So,
yeah. But
uh,
also
yeah,
people always say to me, "Oh, but she was a really bad mother," and it's like, what are you talking about? I mean, nobody ever says, George V was a really bad father. I mean,
yeah.
that's. I mean, I think women are held to different standards.
Or like
Very
Henry VIII, was he a good
definitely.
father?
No, clearly
No, I don't think so.
horrible husband. Yeah.
By the way, are there any plans maybe to portray Queen Elizabeth the First in any of your novels?
I
Upcoming novels, maybe?
Not yet, but you never know. You never know.
Yeah, because I figured that there are a lot of autobiographies, sorry, biographies,
Yeah.
and books that where different historians praise this woman, but like
Mm.
few novels actually dealing with her reign, and a lot of films, but little novels.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe you should consider this woman
Let's
also.
go next. Yeah.
Okay. One more question that I would like to ask about writing is your like writing routine. So can you split it into several stages from like the idea coming up to your mind and like finishing the story?
Um. Well, I think I have an idea. I do lots of research. I like to read a lot around it, and then I start writing. And then when I'm writing, I try and just write and write and write till I get to the end, and then I go back and sort of see if it works or not.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I'm fairly I'm fairly instinctive. And I always think while I'm doing it, I either think it's terrible or I think it's wonderful. There's no in between. But I don't really know what it's like until I've finished it. Um, and I suppose the thing is that all writing is to some extent rewriting. That's
Yeah.
quite a thing to bear in mind. And, you know, it can take a while to be able to read your own work and think, oh, this is what's good or this is what's bad. So
Exactly.
you really need someone um, to read it for you and tell you,
Yeah.
someone that you trust.
Someone from the outside who
Yeah,
doesn't like influence your
yeah,
story, right? Exactly. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of writing also, so do you have any like top favorite authors and what's on your TBR list when you are not writing?
Oh my God, my TBR list. Uh, I'm about to read a biography of Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton
Okay,
called,
yeah.
I don't know what it's called. It's called something like Magnificent Obsession or something like that. I'm about to read that. I'm reading a book called May We Be Forgiven by an American writer called A.M. Holmes.
Okay.
I finished a book the other day called Priest Daddy by Patricia Lockwood, which I think is brilliant. It's a memoir. Um, I just read a book called The Bee Sting by Paul Murray, which is really good, set in Ireland. And I like an Irish writer called Claire Keegan, who
Okay.
wrote. So I think those are all modern writers, but classic writers. I mean, I never get tired of reading Jane Austen ever.
Same here. Yeah. My favorite is probably Pride and Prejudice, and I'm about to read Emma. I read Persuasion, but
Mm-hmm.
I should say that I liked it less than Pride and Prejudice. It actually reminded me a lot of Pride and Prejudice for some reason.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But she's yeah. I mean, it's a slightly the heroine. You'll probably like Emma more because the heroine is more spirited. Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, speaking of other topics not connected with writing, so there have been so many different epochs, centuries that people have gone through. How would
Mm-hmm.
you characterize our century? So we had like Romanticism, Renaissance, Enlightenment. How would you characterize this
Oh,
century
oh,
and maybe even give it a name?
oh, wow. Oh, you sprung that one on me. Um, Gosh, I'd say we were the hyper century. It's all too fast, you know,
Yeah.
digital hyper. I'm
Digital,
afraid.
definitely.
Yeah.
Social media century. Like one of the interviews that I've had, the person, he's an Italian, he told me something like social mediations, you know?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, that's
What's your
definitely.
attitude towards social media, by the way? Is it something that can be fruitful or something that can ruin people's lives in general?
Um, I think well, I don't know. I think it's bad. I think it's probably I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's great. I think it's a lot harder to be a young person now than it used to be because of social media. So yeah, I think
Yeah,
I'm not,
it's
I'm not,
damaging, right?
yeah, I think, well, no, that makes me sound very fusty, but I think that, my oldest daughter has, has deleted all social media. So I think there are a lot of young people who've realized that it's not everything, you know. I think we need to learn to kind of live with it and not let it take over our lives.
Yeah, so start looking around ourselves and spend more time like
Hmm.
withdrawing from social media, right?
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah.
Okay, and the last and one more question that I'd like to ask is like traveling. So there is a phrase that if a person does not travel, it seems that they are reading one single book
Uh-huh.
throughout their lives, right? So
Yeah.
do you agree with this concept? And what was your last most memorable and thought-provoking travel?
Oh my goodness. I think travel is good for people. Yeah, I mean, I think it does help them look at things in a different way. Um, I suppose, where did I go last that was really interesting? Well, I've been to Vietnam and I thought that was fascinating because that's a place which I'd always sort of thought of as, my only ideas of it were from movies, and then you go there and you realize that they've got a civilization as old as any in the West, and that was completely sort of humbling, actually, and that it's such a kind of vigorous, incredible country.
Yeah,
So,
you usually your perception is completely different from what you see
yeah,
in the movies or from
yeah,
what you read in the books.
yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly.
Hey Daisy, thank you very much for being here today. It was a very pleasant and fascinating conversation. I wish you luck with Color, with Diva,
Yeah.
right? And it's coming out in like the middle of January, somewhere around like
In,
24th of January, right?
in America on the 23rd, in Russia, I mean not Russia, in England in March. It's already published in Italy, and I think it's coming out in places like Bulgaria and Lithuania and Baltic countries,
Yeah.
Hungary. Poland, Eastern Europe have gone big for Callas. So
Yeah, so many people in Eastern Europe, they praise Maria Callas,
well, that's
honestly.
great.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Really.
So I hope it's going to be a huge success, like all your
Yeah.
other novels. And I wish you luck with anything you decide to start to write, to think about.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Lovely to meet you, Catherine. And do send me a link of this podcast.
Okay, of
Okay.
course.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks a lot. Yeah, bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the podcast with your friends. Thanks very much for listening.